This car right here has a 0 to 62 miles an hour time of 2.9 seconds. Let me just repeat that again, 2.9 seconds. That's mad. This is going to be the fastest 0 to 62 car I've ever featured on my channel to date. Wish me luck. Oh my God. Ah! So yes guys, this is the Tesla Model 3 Performance, and I've been using it for the past week, and boy do I have some thoughts. From the supercharger network to no indicator stalks on the inside, and added on that note as well, no gear stick, and this badge right here, which basically means this car means business. Let's jump right into the review. Now, having reviewed the standard Tesla Model 3 a few months ago, the improvements they made on that model were very, very welcome. I managed to actually drive the previous gen Tesla Model 3 as well, and the differences are actually quite substantial. From the better build quality on the inside, the very noticeable difference in noise reduction when you're driving on the road is all very, very good. But this is the first performance model I've ever got my hands on with a Tesla. So if you do go for a performance model, what do you get? Well, for starters, you get the signature badge on the back, the same badges on the seats, of which are bucket seats, which I will add for cars with this kind of sort of performance are usually rock hard, but are surprisingly comfortable on long journeys. Red brake calipers, which are in fact high performance brakes, a front splitter, vents for cooling on the sides, a rear diffuser, a rear spoiler in carbon fibre, and 20-inch wheels known as warp wheels. In fact, this is the only Tesla Model 3 model where you can get wheels of this size. The standard models are 18-inch wheels and optional 19-inch wheels, probably to help with efficiency and range, but more on that later. And let's not forget the upgraded suspension and, of course, the electric motor's performance, which is out of this world. It's called insane for a reason. Now, prices for the Tesla Model 3 Performance do start at a very high £60,000 for a Tesla, but if you delve a little bit deeper into the stats, you kind of do see where the money's being thrown, and that's mainly on the performance side. There aren't many cars that you can get for the price brand new at £60,000 that will do 0 to 62 in 2.9 seconds. I mean, if you want to keep up with a Bugatti Veyron, then yeah, you could do that at a fraction of the cost. It won't beat it, but you'll be able to keep up with it and at least read its number plate. Now guys, if you're loving this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button just down below. I'd hate for you to miss out. I cover Tesla, Mercedes, BMW, VW, BYD and even Volvo as well. And I'm potentially open to other brands in the future. So if you want to see a particular car and have me review it on my channel, let me know in the comment section just down below. Now, when it comes to the actual styling of the performance, obviously I've listed all the things that this car has anyway, but I think Tesla have just got it just right, because if I think there was any extra kind of sporty elements on the outside, I think it would almost look a bit out of place. Things like the spoiler are a nice like addition with the carbon fibre, and you know, the rear elements on the back, the red brake calipers, it's just all just nice subtle things that if you kind of put them side by side, the standard one and the performance one, you know that this is the performance one, but it's not too much in your face, meaning you can obviously daily this car without turning too many heads, which some people might not like. Now, when it comes to the boot capacity, Tesla quote up to 682 litres. Now, annoyingly, I couldn't find the stat that just shows you this bit here. I'd imagine that's total capacity, including the Frunk, which we'll have a look at in a second. But the opening's massive. You can get loads of things in here. It is a 60-40 split on the rear seats when they fold down, so not 40-20-40. But having said that, as I said, the opening's massive. I just wish that this was like a hatchback style bit where the glass goes up as well, because as this is a saloon, I can't have this car ready because I have a dog at home, so obviously you couldn't go in there. That'll be a bit cruel. That's my issue anyway. There's also a bit of underfloor storage space as well, which is very welcome for the charge cables, so that's always good to see on an EV. The only other annoying thing that I didn't like was on the back here. If you notice just here is the rear camera. Now, annoyingly, this doesn't fold away. So when you're driving around in, I will say we had extremely unusual rainy weather. I drove through like 4 storms in one day the other day. But yeah, the camera is just exposed like that, so it does get a little bit dirty, so you do have to wipe it from time to time, but as long as, you know, the car's remotely clean, then it probably should be okay. But yeah, to see out of it, I did have to wipe it because of the very unusual weather we had this week. Yeah, see, because I've reviewed a couple of Teslas now, I know where the button is. It's on the screen to do the Frunk. And yeah, it's exactly the same as the standard Model 3, so useful for a big hold-all, which is obviously very welcome. I think it's actually one of the largest Frunks I've seen. I've definitely seen ones which are like really small and I'd argue not even worth having. But yeah, you can get a decent sized bag in there, so that's always good. That's where the charge cable is at the moment and windscreen wash there. Cool, right, well, let's now have a look at the inside of the Model 3 Performance. So yes, this is the rear of the Model 3 Performance, and I remember sitting in the back of the standard Model 3, very similar setup here. That's set up for my driving position, so I've been driving like that quite comfortably for the past week. As you can see, it is a bit of a squeeze, but that is kind of to be expected on cars this sort of kind of size. Certainly my own daily car is also a hatchback, so I have to do exactly the same thing. Get that seat moved forward to get someone in the back here for a comfortable long journey. But yeah, everything else, the actual seats themselves are very soft. I normally don't like light interiors, but actually I think it goes quite well in this. It kind of attributes to the minimalistic design that Tesla have in their cars. I do quite like this. I don't know if I would personally opt for it. I think I would probably go black, but I do like the white and black kind of colour contrast on the inside. There is also a centre armrest here, which I don't know if I looked at before actually. I can't remember if I found that out. But yeah, there's cup holders there. And all the actual kind of materials used, they're all kind of like soft leather materials, which is very nice. There's very few plastics, which is really good to see. I think this is kind of like a plasticky kind of feel down here, but again, it's not really stuff you're going to touch. Speaking of, down here is an 8-inch screen. So yes, rear passengers get to choose this thing. So not only do they have their own USB-C ports down there for charging, there's an 8-inch touchscreen which allows you to do all sorts of things from climate control to adjusting the seat, music playback, and all you do is just tap on these little things down here to control all sorts of things. You can even watch YouTube on the back. Now that is quite cool. Although I don't know how that would be looking down in the car when the car's moving, but hey, I don't know, if you're sensitive to motion sickness, then that might not be the best thing, but hey ho, each their own. In terms of the floor is raised slightly as well, so this is kind of to be expected on hatchbacks and this sort of sized car. It's quite a common thing, which is why my legs are kind of like this, but hey, it's kind of just one of those things. But the headroom is great. I mean, I actually forgot that this is all glass here, which is really cool, and it kind of just fades to the back to the actual glass bit where you can see out of. So yeah, very nice. Right, well, let's have a look at the front, and well, the only thing in the front really is the big screen in the middle. Now guys, when you jump into a Tesla, you'll know instantly that there's very few buttons and well, everything is so minimalistic. So for example, there's no indicator stalks, there's no gear stick, there's no vents for the, well, there are vents, but they're kind of built in, but there's no physical vents that you adjust with your hand. It's all done on the screen. And this is one of the really unique things about Tesla. They've scaled back so many things to make it very minimalistic. So much so that there's no indicator stalk, it's a button on the actual steering wheel. That is a bit of a learning curve. Thankfully, I drove the Tesla Model 3 before and I am used to that, although there still have been a couple of occasions this week where I've gone to use the imaginary stalk and it's just not there. And also changing gear as well, that's also done on the screen, which is definitely a bit different. So yeah, there is a learning curve on that front. Now, in terms of the Model 3 performance stuff on the inside, virtually everything is the same. The only things that I think that are slightly different is this carbon fibre piece here, which is very nice, just adding to that sporty look, and then the seats. I think everything else is pretty much the same as the standard Model 3. That and, of course, your choice of seat colour. But yeah, the seat comfort, again, very nice. They are actually heated and cooled, which is pretty cool. And that is even on the standard ones as well. So it's no different. It's just the style is slightly different with the kind of warp speed or plaid badge, which I know the plaid badge is in the Model S, so it might still be called plaid here. But yeah, they're very supportive. I've certainly done a couple of long journeys this week and yeah, love it for long journeys. So, as there isn't really any other buttons to go through, because everything's all on the screen, we'll go through that in a second. I just wanted to talk about build quality, because I've read online that Tesla's build quality years ago was not great, and panel gaps and all that sort of thing. Don't worry, I've read those comments. Now, I've driven a Tesla Model Y, Model 3 rear-wheel drive, and now this one. And every single one has been really, really good. The Model 3s have been better than the Model Y, just because they've had a facelift, and this is the kind of facelift. And everything in here, all these leathery, nice materials, no rattling of anything. I said the harder kind of materials are down lower, as they are with most cars. But yeah, I would actually describe the build quality of this actually better than my daily car. And I know some of you who know what my daily car is, you're going to go, Nick, are you mad? No, genuinely, Tesla Model 3 is actually really, really good. They really, really pulled it out of the bag with, you know, based on stuff. I haven't seen their cars from years ago, but jumping into, you know, started to cover Tesla this year, they are making some fantastic cars and perfect for like your first EV. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nick, are there any negative things? Yes, don't worry, I'll get to those later when we're on the drive. There are pros and cons to everything, and I'll go through those and I'll make sure you guys know about them. But before that, let's have a look at the multimedia system. Now, this screen in the middle is the heart of a Tesla, and their software is actually very, very good. There is one slight negative, that it actually doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but it makes up for that with their very, very intuitive multimedia system. So, for example, we have this menu button down here. Tap this. This will show you every app that the car can do. And you'll notice here you can sign in to Apple Music and Spotify and Tidal, YouTube Music and Amazon Music. I think those last two have just been added very recently. But then you have your dock down here just with these icons which show you the most recent things that you've kind of accessed. Heated steering wheel, heated seats, and then in here is all of your climate control. What I've just done there is just turn it on. But then in here you can access everything and control where all the vents go left and right. It's very, very clever. And then of course you can go to the rear and adjust the rear as well. It is a very, very easy to use multimedia system. The only negative thing really is that because it is controlled centrally, everything is done on the touchscreen, which I'm actually okay for. I know that I'm not a huge fan of touch stuff on the steering wheel. They're kind of like haptics and touch together. I actually don't know if they are physical buttons, but if they are haptics, they are very good haptics. They're like the MacBook trackpad. So I actually quite like these. They're not ones where you just swipe. So notice here me doing this doesn't do anything. You actually have to click it. I'm pretty sure it is a haptic. It does feel like a haptic, but it's a very good haptic. So that is fine on that front. Now, in terms of the sound system, Tesla quote on their website, studio quality sound. I'm not, you know, a complete audiophile or anything like that where, you know, I listen to FLAC files and things like that. For those of you that don't know, it's basically like a high quality audiophile. I don't do that, but I do like my music and I do appreciate a good sound system. So in this, the sound system is incredible. It's very, very good. So the only thing I can say, as all of that is different, is go try it out on a test drive and make sure you connect up your phone and get those tunes going. But yeah, it is very, very good. There is, of course, the equalizer that you can adjust, and I did adjust it ever so slightly. But yeah, very, very bassy, very punchy, and very clear. The clarity's definitely there. So yes, even going down in here, this is your kind of vehicle settings, and this allows you to control all sorts of things from, you know, the child locks on and off to your mirrors and steering. So yes, even those adjustments are done on the screen, but it's all there immediately. When you press car settings, it's just there. But there's some very kind of intuitive things in here. So there's a dash cam built in, so it's constantly recording ahead, and then it has the cameras on the sides. If you beep your horn, for example, it just saves that dash cam clip. All these things just make driving a Tesla just so much easier. And yes, because everything is scaled back, things like if you put your wipers on, it'll pop up with the thing down here where you can adjust the wipers up and down like that. There's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but the software experience on here is that good that in some elements and some aspects it is actually better than CarPlay. But I did make a video on that. If you do want to have a look at that, I'll leave that in the description just down below. But yes, the actual responsiveness of the screen is just very, very easy. I mean, using the sat-nav usually in a car can sometimes, especially loading up the satellite images like this, but you see how responsive it is. It's just so quick. Okay, so final thing then, we'll do a quick tour of the storage and then we're going to take this out on the road. So in here we have a USB-C port just down in there. That's where I've got my cable at the moment for charging. Speaking of charging, there's actually 2 wireless phone chargers here, which is pretty cool. So you don't often see that in cars, but yeah, 2 wireless phone chargers there. And then in here we have a larger storage space with a 12-volt socket there and cup holders in there as well. So very nice and all soft close. And then the glove box, which believe it or not is operated on the screen. So to do this was there and there. Look at that. Jesus, that's a very strong magnet, or however that locks in place. Right, let's get this out for a drive. Now, you may have heard me mention earlier that there is no gear stick. There's no gear stick, but there is a gear selector. So when you put your foot on the brake pedal, you're able to then actually adjust it just here. And this car has some intelligent features where it automatically has put it in drive for me and will know if I'm in a parking space and if there's anything in front of you. But you basically always just check to see what you're in there, and you can either swipe down for reverse like this, or you swipe up for drive, just like that. It takes a little bit of getting used to, same as the indicators. Now, when I first jumped in this, I think, I'm just trying to cast my memory back from when I drove the Model 3. I think this is slightly noisier, ever so slightly, because when I first jumped in the standard Model 3, I was like, oh wow, this is like really quiet compared to the previous one. And I would imagine that's probably just down to the larger wheels, which is just science. That's just how it kind of works. With larger wheels, you will get a little bit more road noise. But yes, the Tesla Model 3 performance range is quoted at 328 miles. In a minute, when we come to stop, I'll let you know what my kind of efficiency score was on a 124 mile round trip journey I did a couple of days ago. So the performance of this car that I've mentioned a few times is 2.9 seconds with the rollout subtracted. But it's the weird thing, 460 horsepower doesn't sound like much. I've driven cars which have more horsepower than that, but this just takes it to another level on paper, and I can imagine what it's going to be like. But in terms of ride comfort, I would say it's very, very smooth. I said the road noise is just slightly more, I think, from the previous Tesla Model 3 that I drove, but that had kind of fatter tyres. But yeah, I mean, I've done a couple of long journeys in this, utilising the supercharging network, which again is brilliant. If you're looking for an EV, you're thinking about your next car to be an electric car, Tesla just have it so right to make it so easy. The problem is, I could do a whole video on this, but if you buy another electric car that isn't a Tesla and you go out into the big bad world and use public charging, you have to authenticate yourself to use that charger. With Tesla superchargers, you just plug it in. It knows who you are, it will bill your account, and a lot cheaper than other public chargers, I will add as well. Obviously, if you can charge at home, then that's great, because that's going to be way cheaper for you, but it's that very neat ecosystem and package combined which just make it so appealing, and that's why Tesla owners just love them so much. Right, I think we should go to the launch, where the bit that everyone's been waiting for. Alright guys, so there's different acceleration levels you can choose. So there's chill, standard and insane. Now I've been driving on chill, and I'll describe chill as kind of quite laid back and the car feels almost underpowered. It is nice you get that kind of almost like instantaneous torque, but it's not as quick. When you go standard, that's when it's a lot quicker. I'm going to demonstrate that here now, and we'll see what the 0 to 60 is of that going on to this bit of road, which you kind of need to accelerate pretty quickly to get up to speed. And then we'll go somewhere quieter for the insane bit, which I still have not done. I think that's going to be very, very quick. Right, let's have a look. Let's look at standard. So I've got my specialist timing gear over here, which can time the 0 to 30 and 0 to 60. Let's get over the horrible grate there. Okay, let's line up. Oh, it's going to be nice and clear for us. And come to a complete stop, and away we go. Oh, that's quick. Oh my god. Okay, I don't know what that was, but you guys can obviously see what that is on the screen now. Oh, 3.83, I can see it from here. That's quick. And that's not even on the fastest mode. Oh my god, what have I let myself in for? Okay, let's check out the insane mode. Alright guys, the time has come to put this into insane mode. Insane. Wish me luck. Into drive, let's go line up. I just feel like this is going to be out of this world. Get this horrible grate again. And we wait our slot. Okay, here we go. Oh my god. Jeez. Oh, that is fast. What was that? 3.17. Jeez, my brain and head is in the boot. Oh, it's got my heart going. I think I actually I lifted off the throttle slightly. Whew, that's a rush. That is fast. Yep. Well, I think I've calmed down a bit now. If you want a very, very fast car for £60,000, pretty much be one of the fastest out there, you know, as fast as supercars, and do it cheaply, I might add as well. Tesla Model 3 Performance. So that is some insane performance on that car. I've managed to calm down just a few minutes later because I feel absolutely violated after that. That is so fast. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, let's talk about efficiency now. The other day I did a road trip for about 124 miles, just kind of round trip, and I measured the energy usage on that trip. So here's what I got. So I did 124 miles, and according to Tesla's trick computer, it was 269 watt hours per mile, meaning if you do 1000 divided by 269, that comes out at 3.7. Then if you take that 3.7 and times it by the battery capacity, the usable capacity, which I believe is 75 for this one, that comes out at 278 miles. And Tesla quote 328. Now I wasn't actually driving economically, I was actually testing it out. So I guess in real world, you know, driving it without driving economically. I drove in chill and standard, but not insane for that journey. So yeah, that's what I got on that. And then we get onto the pros and cons. So here are my pros and cons on the Tesla Model 3 Performance. Now for the pros, I'd say it's insane performance. It's more performance than I think anyone ever needs. If I was looking at the Model 3, I'd probably be looking at the long range. Not necessarily because of the longer range, but because of the extra power. That's basically what the, what's the mode? Standard is. That's the long range kind of power, but the insane is just a bit more. And well, I say a bit more, a lot more. Another pro is the supercharger network. So if this is going to be your first EV, you know, any type of Tesla, just having the supercharger network is absolutely brilliant. Yes, I know the public infrastructure is growing, but just having that supercharger network is brilliant because you just plug it in and it just works. And it's cheaper and it's always fast. So brilliant on that front. And then I've got to give it to the intuitive software on here. The fact that this communicates with the superchargers and everything just works. When you navigate to a supercharger on here, it will preheat or pre-cool the battery ready to do a charge. There aren't many other manufacturers that do that, so that is really cool. Now for the cons. So these are things that aren't so good and things to think about if you're considering a Model 3. So the first thing, and the most obvious one, is that there is no gear stick and there are no indicator stalks. So this does take a little bit of getting used to. Now, will you get used to that on a test drive? Probably not. It's something that you will forever be trying to use the indicator stalk when nothing's actually there. Give it a few days though, and then you will get used to it after that. So if, I don't know, you have to ask Tesla, if they're doing like an extended test drive, try that and see if you can get along with it for a few days. But yeah, take my word for it. I've jumped back into this, and again, it took me like, I think the first time, maybe 3 days to get used to it. This time around, I was doing it within, you know, a day. So you do get used to it after a little while. And obviously, if you guys own a Tesla Model 3, if anyone who's watching, please do let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Another downside is that everything is touchscreen. If you're against touchscreens, now for me, I'm against touch things on the steering wheel, but these are haptics and they do work very well. So that is okay. If you are against touch screens in general in cars, well, I mean, probably not the best car to go for because it is just a touchscreen. But having said that, the software is very good on it. Now, the other downside is that this doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It would be really nice to have the option, although honestly, if I had this, I probably wouldn't use it because the software is so good. You have your Apple Music linked and Spotify, podcasts, it's all just there. So there we go, guys. I think we will end it there. That concludes this week's video and my review of the Tesla Model 3 Performance. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all next time.